Hey, MzeroA Nation, Jason here, bringing you a new series. Actually, all throughout this year, we're going to be doing more series-based content, and welcome into the first part of that. 7700, of course, our emergency transponder squawk code. All this month, our webinars, our podcasts, and we're back to doing podcasts, by the way. Links to those in the description below as well. All our content is being based on this idea of in-flight emergencies that unfortunately in some cases lead to accidents. Today we're going to be diving into United Flight 173, and I'll be taking you through this accident that really should have never been an accident in the first place. The premise and the theme that I want you to take away from this is that even the professionals make mistakes. We have a very experienced crew in this case, and yet they still are going to run out of fuel in VFR conditions. We'll talk about that in a second. United Flight 173 is actually where CRM, Crew Resource Management, actually came from. Up until this point, this was back with that culture of I'm the captain and what I say goes. There wasn't too much working together as a team in the cockpit like we are, I'll say, still aspiring towards here today. The FAA started to realize that more accidents were being caused by pilot error rather than mechanical error. So they devised this idea, listen, we have this CRM, this in the military here, we need this over in civilian aviation. And United Flight 173 was one of the final straws to get CRM implemented in our training. So let's start with the end in mind. When the FAA and the NTSB showed up to the wreckage of United Flight 173, they asked one simple question. How does an airplane run out of fuel in VFR conditions in sight of the airport? Knowing that question, let's try to put ourselves in the shoes of the pilots that day. There's three members of our United crew. Captain Malburn McBroom. He's a World War II veteran, 27-year United captain, 27,000 flight hours. That's the kind of person I want to be my flight instructor, right? Like a World War II veteran, 27,000 flight hours. Yet this is the exact person that our accident really surrounds to run out of fuel in VFR conditions. Our first officer is First Officer Roderick Beebe, 13 years with United, 5,500 flight hours. Forrest Mendenhall is our flight engineer, 11 years with United, 3,300 flight hours. A lot of experience, 30,000 plus hours sitting in this cockpit, and we're going to run out of fuel in VFR conditions in sight of the airport. Let's watch this simulation here together, and I'll narrate it as we see how it unfolds. So our flight departs New York's JFK Airport with a quick stopover in Denver before continuing on to Portland, Oregon. Now it was in Denver that some passengers get on, some passengers get off, and we take on fuel. We take on 46,000 pounds of the required 32,000 pounds. Now, while this doesn't sound like a big deal, we fly 172s, right? This is just enough fuel to be legal in this type of McDonnell Douglas aircraft at the time. Just enough fuel to be legal and still meet the United requirements here. We're coming into Portland, we break through this little wispy layer, we lower our flaps, we lower our landing gear, and it's about this time we're met with this loud bang type noise. No one likes loud noises in airplanes, right? So they put down the landing gear, they hear this loud bang noise. You and I can see from the outside their landing gear is down, locked, and straight. In fact, it actually was. Yet when you look inside, they didn't get any in-transit lights, and the majority of their lights just remained red, not giving them a positive indication. What had actually happened is they had lost hydraulic pressure. Hydraulic pressure works to bring the landing gear up as well as to bring the landing gear down along with gravity. Losing that hydraulic pressure caused 250 knots and gravity to literally rip the landing gear down into place. We can see this here, but they have no idea if their landing gear is down at this point. So they enter into, they call approach, and approach vectors them to like this triangular shaped holding pattern. And it's there they continue to hold, while the captain sends the flight engineer back into the cabin, because on the McDonnell Douglas aircraft at this time, there's a little indicator tab that pops up on the wing roots above each main wheel. And if that pops up, that tells you that particular main is down, locked, and straight. Look at our simulation, you can kind of see where that would be. He checked and both those indicator tabs were up, meaning at least the left and right mains were down, locked, and straight. The captain now reaches out to the flight attendant and tries to get the cabin ready here. Okay, what would you do? Have you got any suggestions about when to brace? You want to do it over the PA? Talking to the flight attendant. Flight attendant says, I gotta be honest with you, I've never had one of these before. This is my first emergency. She's explaining here, as we're now holding. Remember, we got just enough fuel to be legal. And the first officer and the flight engineer know and understand that. And that conversation is going to come up here. I'm sure the first officer is just thinking out loud when he says, how much fuel do we have? Flight engineer comes back and says, 5,000 pounds of fuel. This is like warning lights on at this point. This is low fuel. Captain says, give us a current car on weight figure. About another 15 minutes. 15 minutes, says the flight engineer. Wait, I'll explain all this here in just a second now. Yeah, give us 3,000 or 4,000 pounds on top of zero fuel weight here. Again, I'll explain this in a second. Flight engineer says, not enough. 15 minutes is gonna run us really low on fuel here. Let me just pause this here so you understand what this is saying now. What the captain is saying, hey, flight engineer, I know you said there's 5,000 pounds of fuel in there. And by the way, in this aircraft, 5,000 pounds of fuel is like warning lights on. Picture your car. It no longer tells you 30 miles till empty. It just says low. You need to get to a gas station soon. This is extremely low on fuel. What the captain's now saying here, the flight engineer, he's going, listen, I know you say there's 5,000 in there, but trust me, give it 3,000 or 4,000 extra pounds. We're good. Don't you worry about it. He's making up imaginary fuel. Now, mind you, the flight engineer was known as the plumber of the aircraft. There were so many different fuel tanks and fuel chambers, and it was a very complex fuel system. No one knew the fuel situation better than that flight engineer, because he was constantly moving fuel wherever it needed to be to keep that airplane flying with crossfeeds and pumps and everything else. The flight engineer knew the true fuel status. Said it was 5,000. The captain didn't want to hear it. Don't worry about it. We've got this. We're fine. Let's continue with our simulation now. So after this conversation, we see Portland here. You think, well, we have to land now. However, that's not the case here. The captain comes on back and lets everybody know it's going to be just a little bit longer as the cabin continues to get ready. Just take another walk through the cabin, make sure everyone's fine. Let them know another 10 minutes or so, the captain says, as they turn away from the airport. Flight engineer speaking out loud, we've got 3,000 in the fuel, and that's it. He gets ignored. Okay, on touchdown, if the gear folds or something really jumps the track, get those boost pumps off so that you might even get the valves open here. He's worried about a post-crash fire. He doesn't have enough fuel on board to even start a fire in this case. But you look, and here's Portland. We got to land this time. There's one check we missed, says the captain. What's that? The landing gear warning horn. Let's test the breaker. Let's go ahead and let's pull the throttles back to idle. The flaps past 35 to test. Hey, pull that breaker and reset it. He's obsessed with this landing gear issue, but now we'll get his attention. First officer, we're going to lose an engine. Why? Says the captain. We're losing an engine. Why? Says the captain. Fuel. Now we finally have his attention here. Open up the crossfeeds, the captain said. Flight engineer says, I'm showing fumes. The captain says, I'm showing 1,000 pounds or better. I don't think it's in there. It just flamed out as they now make a desperate turn towards the Portland airport, hoping to be within partial power glide distance. Flight engineer, we're going to lose engine number 3 in a minute 2. Captain, we've got 1,000 pounds. We have to. First officer, we had 5,000, buddy, but we lost it. Do we have fuel pressure? All crossfeeds open. The captain, hey, reset that circuit breaker real quick and see if we get gear lights. All the way into this descent, obsessed with this landing gear issue, as United Flight 173 lands 8 miles short of Portland International into a Portland suburb. All 3 wheels down, locked, and straight. I have some photos here to share with you of that. You can see the crash. There were some fatalities. There were certainly more survivors than fatalities, thankfully, in this case here. When we say Portland suburb, we literally mean Portland suburb. If you can see this here, there was no post-crash fire. You can even see the airplane in that photo. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see it here. There was no post-crash fire. The only, from the airplane at least, the only post-crash issue was an electrical fire. As you can see, the tail kind of grabbed the electrical lines there, causing a fire. When we say in a Portland suburb, we literally mean in a Portland suburb. So now you are the FAA, you're the NTSB. You show up in the suburbs of Portland, and what's the first question you ask yourself? How does an airplane run out of fuel in VFR conditions in sight of the airport? And I mean, think about it. You post in the comments too. I'd love to read your responses here. Some ideas that jump into my mind. We forgot to fly the airplane. We became obsessed with these other outside issues. Let me show you kind of the chain of events that I came up with here real quick. How about the first one? Just enough fuel for the trip. Again, it's hard to calculate and fathom how much fuel this aircraft takes. We're talking pounds and everything else, but to relate it to what we do, it is literally, they took on just enough fuel to be legal, plus United had an extra 20 minutes on there is what they wanted. They had just enough fuel to be legal. The captain survived. He later said, listen, we talked about the fuel, but it was kind of just, that's what we did. Obviously, flying more fuel is expensive because you burn more fuel. It's more weight. It was just the economics of it at the time. It doesn't happen as much anymore. We're much more careful with our fuel burn, but that was just the economics of it at the time. That was, I'm the captain, what I say goes. This is the fuel I'm taking on here. What's the second in our chain of events? The landing gear issue. And I call it a landing gear issue because the flight engineer went back and double-checked the little indicators and said, I can tell the mains are down, locked, and straight. At the time, the nose was much more difficult to inspect. It required removing inspection panels to actually look down and see if it was down, locked, and straight. But we had all the indications that there's a pretty good chance the landing gear is down. They just held out there a little bit too long before bringing it on in. What about our third link in the chain of events? The captain's failure to see beyond it. He became obsessed with this landing gear issue, trying every little thing, forgetting about the impending fuel issue. That event number 4 in our chain of events, the crew failed to share it. You could say, Jason, they tried their best. They thought out loud, hey, how much fuel do we have? And the captain heard them, but then came up with other arbitrary things to say, and they just didn't share it enough until the faithful words, we're going to lose an engine. And the captain just says, why? We're losing an engine. Why? The captain still says. Not fully understanding the circumstance, just trying to troubleshoot and work through a landing gear issue. How does an airplane run out of fuel in VFR conditions in sight of the airport? Well, they simply just stopped flying the airplane, if you want my professional opinion. This accident, by the way, changed the way airlines hired and trained. Gone were the days of I'm this, this macho poster boy type pilot. Think back to like the Tiana Reef accident. And let's start incorporating CRM and working together as a team and as a crew. So I know we were speaking about, flying big, heavy airplanes, but I hope you see how this relates to us in general aviation. Leave me a comment down below on your thoughts. What can you learn from this? How can you apply this to general aviation? How can you utilize this in your own CRM as well? This is the first in our multi-part series of the 7700 series. I hope you'll like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube as well, so you continue to keep up with this series. Also, please mark your calendars. I'm doing something very, very special this month. March 26th. March 26th at 3 p.m., I'll be doing a JFK Jr. live presentation, brand new. I created this presentation about 5 years ago. So much new research and new detective work by myself and the team here that we've truly found. We're recreating that seminar from 5 years ago, and we're going to deliver it all live with some of the great insights we had before, but some new insights to bring up as well. Talk about, did he have an autopilot, all these things, and what can we learn from that? That'll culminate the 7700 series as well, March 26th, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on the MzeroA YouTube, MzeroA Facebook. There's a link to RSVP in the video description as well. Lastly, Sun and Fun. If you plan on being at Sun and Fun, I will hope you would join us. Come find us in Hangar D, Hangar Delta, same spot we've been for many, many years. I'll be in the booth all week, as well as Saturday at 12 p.m. Steve-O, my very good friend Steve-O One Knievo, will be in the booth, the MzeroA booth, from 12 to 1 as well. I look forward to seeing you on the live stream. I look forward to seeing you at Sun and Fun. Enjoy the rest of this series as it comes out this month, and most importantly, remember, the good pilot is always learning. Have a great day, guys. We'll see ya. Take a 2-week free trial of our online ground school and see why Aviation Consumer Magazine named it the top online ground school on the market. The first thing you'll notice is that we never teach to the test. We teach real-world skills that are going to keep you and your loved ones safe when you fly. Now, it's because of this real-world teaching, you'll pass your knowledge test and your check ride with flying colors. With one membership, you get access to all our courses, plus weekly webinars with myself and this outstanding MzeroA.com team. It's really like an interactive TV show broadcast from our studio, where you get to interact with a team of CFIs. We also offer live support and email support to make sure you succeed. Now, one thing you'll notice is that MzeroA is like nothing else on the market. It is truly a flight training community geared towards making you a safer, smarter pilot, because a good pilot is always learning. It's much more than a slogan for us. It is truly a mission. So click below and take a 2-week, no strings attached trial of our top-rated private, instrument, commercial, and FOI courses. Once you join our flight training community, I promise you will never want to leave.